What's up, everybody? We'll be with you in 2 minutes. What's up, everybody? We are streaming on Twitch, Facebook, Instagram. Starting in 1 minute. What's up, everybody? How's it going? We are back here on a Thursday night, 7 p.m. PST, with the next episode, episode 3 of Digital Desk Co-working Online Learning Series. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Julian, and I am with Digital Desk Co-working. And while we are having a slow month, shall we say, we've decided to put on some learning events on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. And this is our third episode, so our third week. Today we are going to be looking at a title of Escape Your Cubicle, How to Ditch Your Boss and Start Your Own Business. So our first episode was how to optimize your business website. And so that recording is available on our Facebook page. The second episode we did was a personal branding workshop, basically how to kind of elevate your brand, your personal brand online, why you might want to do that. So that recording is also available on our Facebook page. And today, what I thought I would do was something a little less formal, and I would basically use the story of how I started my first and second business as an example, not so much to show off, but just as an example of a kind of, small business starting up, bootstrapping. And as I tell the story, what I hope to do is provide some examples of what worked and what didn't work. And basically, hopefully just inspire people to realize that they can also start their own business. And quite honestly, there's never been a better time. All the tools and learnings are out there available online to learn, regardless of which niche you're in, a suitable way to start your business. So yeah, I'm just gonna jump right into it. So let me just make sure I'm set up on Zoom here. Just give me 1 second here. And just gonna grab the URL, make sure I use the right one. So I finally figured out streaming on Instagram, and so hopefully that worked. That did not work. Let's try that again here. Just give me 2 seconds here. I just want to make sure the Zoom folks are online as well. We're also streaming on Twitch. So that's kind of neat. We're using a product called Restream. So let's see if I can figure this out here. And then I'm going to share my screen. And I'll go with this guy here. And hopefully that's looking good. Let's see how that looks. Sorry guys, just give me 2 seconds here. Alright, let's see if that works. And okay. Sorry guys, apologize for the wait here. I'm just trying to figure this out here. Okay, there we go. That's better. All right, so here we go. So escape your cubicle. Let's move that out of the way. How to ditch your boss and start your own business. So I'm just gonna kind of go through what worked for me, and we'll see if there's some learnings for other people that they can use. So let's get into it. So some of the questions that I want to answer in today's presentation are some reasons why you would want to start your own business. Number two, kind of talk about when is a good time to start your own business. A lot of people ask me, should you work for another corporation first? So I have some thoughts about that. Some things you should do before you start your own business. So just kind of get your ducks in a row and whatnot. How to start your own business. So I'm going to go through some strategies and tactics that I used. Now, my particular business, I did not go to the market and raise money, so I bootstrapped it. So I'm going to talk about what inspired me to do that and how I did that. So basically how to start a business with next to no money. I will say that my experience is about starting a digital agency. So while I might have some comments outside of that type of business, I'm also going to talk about the second business, which is a co-working space. So I'll try and keep in mind that there's other businesses other than digital agencies and co-working spaces, but that's my experience. So it'll mostly be about that. But again, a lot of the tools that I'm going to mention are things that you could use, of course, for other businesses in different industries and niches and whatnot. I'm going to talk about things I wish I'd done differently, and we can all learn from that. I'm going to talk about things that I think I did right, which I wouldn't change. I'm going to talk about all the tools that I use to run my business. So it took me a while to kind of figure out my business model and the different tools and steps that would be required to execute that. So I'm going to share those. Something I've never done is share my entire sort of vertical stack of tools that I use. And I'm going to also suggest some ideas on how you might want to grow your business. So a lot of that will relate to the tools that I present, and I'll explain which tool it is, why I use it, why I don't use other similar tools, and why I think it's important in my arsenal for growing my business. And I'm going to talk about a bunch of other stuff along the way. So hope you enjoy. So let's switch over to the slide deck here, here we go. And all right, so that's embarrassing. So I just threw this picture in here just to remind myself what a dork I used to be. But basically, how did I start, right? So I went to school for history. A history degree didn't really get me where I wanted. So I went back to UVic, University of Victoria, and I took a 1-year long course called the Application and Management of IT. And a lot of that, in order to graduate, you had to take Microsoft exams and Oracle exams. So I took a few of those. And against the judgment of some sort of friends and family, I decided to get a job while I was still in that 1-year course. And I actually started building websites for UVic. And, a lot of people around me thought I might get distracted from my schoolwork and whatnot, but it actually really paid dividends because the day that I graduated from that course, I already had experience. And I had good experience. It was, I got to put UVic on my resume. It was pretty simple stuff. I was learning in school how to build a website. I'd go home and I would, I used Dreamweaver at the time. And I just taught myself more and more Dreamweaver, and I went and applied for this job building websites for one of the departments at UVic. And I got the job, and I was able to, in the evenings, work on a real project. So that was really exciting. I had a good web design teacher at AMIT who was able to answer questions I had. So somehow I just got through it. And 4 days after I graduated, I had my first job. And I was a ASP programmer, which is a Microsoft technology. I was not necessarily a great programmer, but I knew just enough to get going. And 4 days later, I was working for a .com, building their product as a sort of junior developer. And then fast forward a couple of years, I got a job at Royal Roads University as a systems analyst, and that was I actually worked there for 5 years. And this picture here is me studying the project management certificate, graduate certificate. We got half price at courses at Royal Roads, so I thought I'll go and do that. So that really helped. But anyway, that was my kind of the beginning of my corporate life. Then I worked for a local company and ended up getting kind of subcontracted out as a business analyst to various companies. So that was kind of my corporate experience. So when people ask me, should I work for a company before I start my own company? For me, that worked. I think it would be difficult for me to own my own digital agency and had never worked for another company. I think that for me, it's nice to know how the big corporations work, what things don't work well in a big corporation, what things do work well. Some of the things that really stick with me are strong adherence to certain standards. So when I release software, I always have a development environment, a test environment, a production environment, and I'm very kind of regimented, and I don't like to make mistakes, and so we have a lot of process. Everything's systemized and laid out. So that's the kind of thing that I picked up from the larger companies I worked for. Let me see if I can change this slide here. So where was I before starting my business? This is kind of a weird looking boardroom, but I was basically a product manager for a gaming company. This was their San Francisco office, which is pretty crazy. They made war games online, free to play war games. So I was a product manager. I was super excited. It was the best job I ever got. It paid a lot of money. I had a beautiful office. They provided lunch every day. I had an awesome team. And I just absolutely loved the role I was in. A product manager does a lot of different things. I enjoy doing a lot of different things, so it suited me really well. I really wanted to make a good impression, so I was turning up really early and I was leaving late. I was doing like 10, 12 hours a day. I just had my second kid, or my wife did. So our daughter was just basically born the same week or two that I started in this role. And everything was great. I just absolutely loved it. It was fun working on computer games. It was high stress. It was a lot of work, but I was really enjoying it. And next thing you know, I was called to the boss's office. This is after about 8 months of working harder than I've ever worked. And I was told I was no longer employed with the company. And I'll never forget that moment ever. It absolutely crushed me. As soon as he said it to me, I just started thinking about my little daughter, who was like a month old. And I was thinking about our 4-year-old as well. And I was thinking about, my wife, who was looking after them and not working. And I had basically signed a non-disclosure agreement. Everyone had, who joined the company. And so they couldn't tell me why. They chose not to tell me why. They had been sued by a previous employee in the past, and because of that, they had made everyone sign a crazy NDA where they could fire you at any moment with no warning. They didn't have to give a reason, and you could never sue them. And we basically had all signed our lives away. And yeah, I was literally crushed. I was absolutely crushed. I felt like I spent my whole career working for this role. I feel like I did a really good job. I worked as hard as I could. It was a difficult environment. It was a startup. The Canadian branch was the startup. I was just absolutely crushed. I didn't know how else to say it. It just like impacted me more than anything ever. And so I went home and I didn't know what to do for a week. And I didn't even know what to do. I didn't want to apply for any jobs. I felt like I had the best job in the city. Um, and so for whatever reason, my wife and I decided that we would just pack up our house. I would start my own business, and we couldn't really afford to live in our house if I was starting a business from scratch with no clients. So we decided to move to Costa Rica for a year. Well, at the time, we didn't even know if it was going to be a year or not. We just were like, let's get out of Dodge. We're done. Um, a lot of different things going through my mind at the time. I have this young daughter. Winter's coming. I don't have a job. We have all these expenses of owning a house. And so we just did the calculation, and I thought, if I don't start my business now, I'll never start it. I never want to be in a position again where someone can just walk into your cubicle and fire you, right? Or let you go, I should say. Um, it, I just decided that was it. That was my breaking point. I can't be in a position ever again where I work that hard, and I feel like I did such a good job. And I later found out that the CEO in America had a university friend who was also in San Francisco that basically wanted my job. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard through the grapevine. So I'm pretty sure someone just basically, a friend of the CEO, poached my job, brought it back to San Francisco because I was in Victoria, BC. So I don't know if that's true, but that's what I heard. So I'll go with that. But anyway, I just never wanted to be in that position again where you can't control your destiny. And I'd worked at enough companies to kind of know how things were done and how I would do things. And so, like I said, we had some really good friends who had just moved to Costa Rica. And even though we didn't end up going to the same region, it gave us the idea. We thought, well, we could move to Costa Rica too. Maybe I could incorporate my business beforehand and just go down there and just get online and see if I can make a go of it with supposedly our expenses being greatly reduced, right? And so that was the goal. We just we're like, okay, we're doing it. Everyone in our family thought we were crazy. Friends thought we were crazy, and we just said, to hell with it. We're doing it. So we packed up our entire house, and it was just chaos. It was absolute chaos. So I just threw in some pictures here. So before I left, I said to myself, okay, I better incorporate because that's going to be hard to do from another country. So I quickly found a lawyer and I found an accountant, and I asked friends, which were the good ones. And I allowed the lawyer and the accountant to create a power of attorney between themselves so they could have meetings for my business without me necessarily being there. And they could just make decisions for me on the fly, which made it really, really quick. I'm still with the same lawyer. I'm still with the same accountant. It works really well. So I went and I incorporated and I started my first company, Red Maple Media, which is still an ongoing entity today. It's a digital agency that does software development and marketing and consulting. And I got my incorporation papers and I said to myself, okay, we're moving to Costa Rica. I need to build myself a mobile office. So I got myself basically a secondhand Mac Pro. I'm very grateful that I got myself a screwdriver that opens up the back of the old Macs. Came in very handy. I'll get to that later. External hard drives. I got some Wi-Fi extenders in case the Wi-Fi sucks where we were staying. We decided basically to line up a bunch of Airbnbs. So every month we would move to a different, or maybe a couple months, we would move to a different Airbnb and kind of just travel through the country like that. We were on the west coast. The first place we went was called Hermosa, Playa Hermosa. So yeah, basically packed up a bunch of tools, and there's a picture of myself and my wife Colleen and our two kids at the airport, with the surfboard in the background there, and everything in my bag was to do with business. It was, excuse me, business books. It was two laptops, Wi-Fi extenders. Excuse me while I have a drink here. So I just was like, okay, this is it. I'm just gonna move down to this Airbnb in the tropics, and I'm just gonna fire up the laptop, and I'm gonna find my first client. Um, so yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure my accountant asked me if I already had clients. I kind of nodded, but I'm not sure that I did. So here's a map of where we went. So Playa Hermosa, on the west coast of Costa Rica. And we didn't travel too far while we were there. We kind of just every 2 months would move south down here, and we eventually got to Tamarindo, which is a fantastic surf town. So yeah, we next thing you know, it's I think it was like the second week in November, something like that, and we arrived in Costa Rica, and those are our kids there. Our daughter was just a few months old, I think 6 months or something like that, and our son was just 4 years, I think. So there's a picture of us doing that, and this is a view from our property that we rented. So beautiful view of the Playa Hermosa beach. And in the evenings we were able, and the weekends, we were able to go and visit beautiful waterfalls and beautiful Costa Rica countryside. So it was just a fantastic kind of start to our trip. And there's a family shot of us round about Christmas or so. So and just a quick mention that when you go to Costa Rica, you need to actually cross the border I think it was 3 months to get a new visa. So we would also pop into Nicaragua every 3 months to renew our visas. So that was a shot from San Juan del Sur in Nicaragua. So this was my first office here. I thought I'd throw that in. It was literally like day one. I got my Mac. I put it on a box. I found a chair. There was no office chairs or office desks. These are some of my other offices I had along the way. This one here, the kitchen table, and this one was pretty cool. It was called the Mini Monkey Bar. So I got to sit here for a couple months and work there. But this was my first one in Hermosa, and I brought an external keyboard, which was great, good for my neck to have good ergonomics. But yeah, that's how it started. Every time we moved, I would set up a similar thing, real simple. Um, and you can see external hard drives and USB sticks and whatnot to get internet. So on my first day, this was the internet speed. It was just ridiculous. zero point 0.2 megabits and 0.05 upload. But it was just crazy. I was like, what have I got myself into? So I did end up getting a USB stick, highly recommended. And one of the reasons we went to Costa Rica was that it was known for having pretty good internet. So that was one of our choices. I just threw in a cartoon here. Good afternoon, Ted. I'm your online presence. So I really lived this for a year. I'm one not to stay in my pajamas all day, but I was sitting at those crummy desks that I showed you, but I was looking big online. I'll get into it in a minute. I built a big website with the big presence and a big social media presence, and I really blasted the internet. And I met people online, and I would pop them into video chats and have coffee with them and whatnot. And if there's one thing that really worked for me is I just looked big online, and I was always authentic and honest with what I could provide. But there's no point looking small when you're online. So now I'm gonna go. That was just kind of an introduction into my particular story, and why I ended up starting my own business. So I think the lesson there really is that I'm learning. I've been in business. I don't even know how many years now. 6 years. A lot of people start their own business when they're kind of forced to. They lose their job. That was my situation. So I know a lot of people now have lost their job and they're at home. So I see this as a fantastic opportunity for some people. I mean, everyone has a different situation, but if you're able to afford a computer, afford internet, afford courses on maybe Udemy, where you can learn new skills. You can get, Google Docs for free and whatnot. This is your chance, I would say. This is your chance to either launch a personal branding website like we talked about last week, launch or fix your business website if you already have one. And if you don't have either of those, this could be your chance to launch a business. Now, it doesn't have to be your only source of revenue. I have a friend who does one job, but in the evenings and weekends, he sells items on his Amazon store. And he just texted me a couple days ago and is making daily sales now and is learning Facebook marketing and whatnot. So for me, I always had what my friends called the golden handcuffs, which was a nice corporate job. And I look back and I'm almost grateful that I was let go and that someone popped my bubble, because if they hadn't, I might still be living that world. And I think the number one thing that I like about starting my own business is that now I control my own time and no one can ever fire me. No one can ever let me go. Back in the day when you're a corporate worker, you're basically trading your time for money. You're sitting in the chair from 9 till 5, if you're lucky, 9 to 5. Usually it was more than that. And I'm going to point out some really good books that I've read along the way at the end of this presentation. And one of them really speaks to that. Not trading time for money, but learning how to trade value for money, right? So there's no regrets for me. It was one of the best things I ever did. So one of the first things I did when I started my business was, unlike most people, I didn't write a business plan. I feel like my business plan was in my head. I knew what I needed to do. And I was bootstrapping, so I didn't need to write one to go get money. I was just going to do it myself. So my philosophy has always been, if you want to skip your business plan, just use your new website as your business plan. So to me, that kills two birds with one stone. So my recommendation is if you just build yourself a really good website that spells out your business and the services and products that you provide, you might get away without a business plan. Now, you might have a lot of time, so maybe you can do both, write your business plan, and then go and create your website and your online presence. But again, business plans to me sound like you're going to go get some money from someone. For me, that wasn't an option. I didn't want to do that. Today, I'm still 100% owner of my company, which I love. I haven't given any away yet, so maybe one day I will for the right partner. But starting out, the way I used to work is go build a really cool website, make it really, really sing, have your story, have your products and services, explain your process, and that's just a quick way to get up and running. So there's different ways you can do that. So as a web developer, obviously I build my own websites. And back in the day, I used to use Amazon hosting, which was a great experience. It's very expensive, but they have everything. So if you want to learn while you are building websites, it's a great way. So I actually used Amazon Web Services for the first 3 years. But nowadays, when I build websites for clients, I feel that GoDaddy has actually improved quite a bit. They don't need anything too fancy. And the best thing is that GoDaddy has a 24/7 phone line. So my clients can go and call someone else. They don't have to call me for little things, right? They can just call GoDaddy. So I just like that GoDaddy has that phone service, so that when clients call me, I can just say, hey, talk to your host. They're the ones hosting your website. I'll do all the design and development and whatnot. But if there's an issue with your hosting, that's a hosting issue. You can go talk to them. And my clients like that. So this is an example of some of the programs or plans, I should say, that GoDaddy offer. So that's what I included there. So my first website was actually a Drupal site. Nowadays I use WordPress for our corporate site. But one of my little secrets is Envato Market. So they have really good themes for your WordPress or Drupal site. So that's a really quick way to get a good looking website. So you can download WordPress, you can quickly install one of these pre-configured themes, and within a day, or even less if you've done it before, You can be hosted on GoDaddy with a beautiful looking website. Now, GoDaddy have turnkey WordPress sites as well. Um, I'm not going to recommend those unless you really don't know what you're doing, because it's just nice to have control over your website and be able to kind of install what you want and just a little bit more control. So I would recommend you get somebody to build you a WordPress site on some business hosting with GoDaddy or AWS or wherever, um, and kind of go from there. So, but yeah, if you want a quick way to get a beautiful theme, Envato Marketplace is great for that. Ideally, you'd use your own photographs. I was in Costa Rica at the time, so I couldn't. So I use websites like Unsplash. I really like Unsplash. It has high quality images, royalty free, and you can basically type in whatever you want and find images that relate to that. So as an example here, I've put in office, and you can see some office shots and whatnot. So, you know, a WordPress or a Drupal site with a nice new theme and all photography that you've chosen yourself. And then you go in and you write your products and services and your origin story and who you are and what you do and who you serve and all of that. Again, I'll refer you back to one of our previous episodes, which is how to optimize your business website, where I go into detail how you should launch your first business website. And if you want to hear some thoughts on the importance of defining your story and broadcasting that story on your website, then you can look at our second episode, which was about personal branding. So I'm not going to go too deep into the whole web design part of it. So again, if you can't build your own website because you don't have the technical expertise, GoDaddy have a turnkey option over here where you can just start typing in domain names and they launch a site. And I haven't tried it, but I'm sure it's fine. If you get stuck along the way, GoDaddy seems to have web design services that you could interact with and get some additional help. So, of course, if you want a web design company, you can go to Google and type in for your town web design companies, and you'll find some local companies that would be happy to build you a website. So that's another option. If you ever have any kind of custom coding or integrations, that's probably a better option. So now I'm going to start talking about some of the tools that I use to start my business. So we'll get onto that. So one of the things that really motivated me at the beginning to not go to the market and get funding was Seth Godin's Bootstrapper's Bible. So this is a free book. I've included the link here below. So just hit me up if you want in the comments if you want me to post some of these links, and I'll post them underneath the video on Facebook probably. So this was just a great example of how to bootstrap your company. So maybe let's just see if I can click out here for a minute. So let me just let it download here. So it talks about what a bootstrapper is and the bootstrapper manifesto, and basically how to start in a really lean way and just kind of iterate on your idea. So again, you know, fire up your website, get a couple pages going, start defining your story. It doesn't have to be finished. Just get it up there, get some traffic. So anyway, this is the Bootstrap Manifesto by Seth Godin, which really inspired me that I don't need to go and get money from the market, and it's really helped me out a lot to be able to sort of control my own destiny. So I think one of the first tools that I'll recommend is something just to get you organized. So to get organized yourself, I always recommend Trello. So Trello is a task board where you get these columns that you can create yourself. So this is a project management one. So you can have your to-do list and these little cards you can pop open and add notes, and you can also interact with other team members and whatnot. So again, this is pretty cool that Trello have a lot of templates as well. So if you're going to go and do you know, a marketing email workflow, you could click on one of their templates and they have pre-built templates, right? So again, you can pop open these cards and they can have, you know, your task in and whatnot. So anyway, I just wanted to recommend Trello as a fantastic way to get yourself organized. So if you're going to launch your business, this would be a fantastic way to kind of create some lists and some individual cards and kind of plan out everything, and then have a done column where you drag these cards across. So one of the cool things is you can this is not my board, so it's not letting me drag stuff, but usually you can drag these across when you're done and whatnot. So yeah, Trello is your friend for self-organization. But I think one thing I really want to touch on here is an excellent article by the Harvard Business Review that talks about how to-do lists just don't work. And the gist of it is they say that in order for a list to be powerful and really effective, your task items or your work items in that list need to have a particular day and time that you're targeting. So I've really fallen in love with this idea, which is if you create a list of things you need to do on the weekend, you're unlikely to kind of get to them all unless you put a date and a time against each one. So in the Trello world, they have a add-on, and again, I have the link here. So you can just type into Google though, using Trello with Google Calendar. And what it does is each of those cards on Trello now appear in your Google Calendar. So as you go through your day, you'll get your cards popping up and saying, call this person, upload this file, etc. So I'm a huge fan of having Trello lists that integrate with a calendar, because then there's a time and a place for you to get that job done. And of course, if you're out of the office for some emergency and you can't get it done, you can just go and reassign a different date and whatnot. So that was something that I wanted to share. So for me, when I started out, I just started out on the free Gmail G Suite. So today that's still an option. I'm somebody who does a lot of work for the provincial government of BC. So we use a lot of Word products. So I basically use both. And I recommend everyone use both. There's no reason when you're heavy duty into development not to have a PC and a Mac on your desk. So I have this explained a bit better later on in the presentation, but I basically have a Mac Pro, and I run something called VMware, and it's VMware Fusion. And Fusion is a virtual operating system, which I use Windows. So even though I'm on a Mac right now, I have whenever I want, I can just pop open a window, and I have all of my Office 365 tools. I think they have them for Mac now, but I just like to be able to test stuff on a PC or test stuff on a Mac. So definitely you're going to want to have access to some of these tools. And the reason you're going to want these is if you're starting a digital agency, one of the things I'm recommending you do is you get your templates in order beforehand. So long story short, the gist of it for me was I was going to go online. I was going to try and find people that needed marketing or websites or business consulting, things that I already knew. All of this was explained on my website. And when they would say, yeah, put together a estimate for me, I popped open Google Docs and I created one. So I'm just going to quickly kind of fly through that, just to kind of show you an example. And I'm happy to share this example with anyone if they're interested. But basically I put my logo up there, my little slogan, and then I was doing work for a restaurant. And so I had project summary and phase 1 and phase 2, and what were the project goals, what are the business goals of this project, what are the technical goals of this project, what are the deliverables for this project, what's included in this fixed price project, so setting up a customized design of the website, create the copy, etc., configure the web server, blah blah blah. So basically a list of all the things that I would need to do. And then we had a second part, which was a marketing phase. So I wouldn't just build a website, I would go and also add on ongoing marketing so that every month onward I would be able to create revenue as well. Um, and basically, here we go, estimating, and this is like a screenshot of a estimation that I did in a spreadsheet. So I'll show you that in a minute. So you got phase one with all the tasks and different estimates, um, and then the project schedule. And I just came up with this, I just sat down and I thought, I want to do things the right way. What would people buying web services need to know? Um, and then I had a warranty and basically a signature and whatnot. And then I included some information to kind of entice them a bit. So, which kind of WordPress plugins would I use, and some sort of nice to have stuff that wasn't included, but maybe they would want to add that. So a little upsell opportunity. And because I was doing marketing for them, I said that I would watch the following metrics and make sure they go up a certain percentage. And then because they're a restaurant, I provided some, okay, well, that theme doesn't exist anymore, but let's see if any of these do. I guess these links are broken. But basically, I just went to Envato, as I showed you earlier, and had some example themes. So I just wanted to kind of share that. So whether you use Office 365 or you use Google, set up a nice template. I call this a statement of work that explains the project. So here is how before I wrote that document I showed you, I did the numbers first. So that's my recommendation, of course. So here's an example of, in the early days, which I still use today, this process, how I would do this. So, I'd basically create that task list. So I go through in my head everything that needs to get done to build the website. And then I would put in minimum and maximum hours. And that would calculate the average hours of how long I think. At the time I was charging $75 an hour. And then this would be the total cost. So how many average hours times by that. And then I throw in some GST. And then I would just show them kind of what percentage of the project that was, right? So that's just a nice way of kind of showing them that there's a lot of different parts to a brand new business website, right? And then down here I had phase two, which was marketing. So creating and executing SEO, search engine marketing, content, blah, blah, blah. Same kind of deal, estimating. And then I would basically just add up the two phases, throw in some fixed costs. So on the separate tab here, I have some fixed costs, which are like the theme and $200 a month or something for Facebook ads. And then I would basically just come up with the total here. So, I mean, these guys got a good deal because I was young and foolish in those days, but I would have my fixed costs here. I also put in hosting monthly costs. So this was really kind of my battle plan. It's been a while since I've looked at this, but again, just all the information that I would need for this particular project, all the different marketing channels I was thinking of using, and some verbiage I had on when I was making the sale of why it's important to have a good website, the different marketing, and then my different research. So this was kind of my battle plan, and I would do all the numbers, and that's my real lesson, is make sure you figure out how long it's going to take, especially if it's fixed price. And also the way you word that Word document, make sure people understand that there's a range of costs. So it was really cool having that spreadsheet because I could go back to it and I could adjust it. And then I take screenshots for the original statement of work. So that was kind of written in stone. And somewhere here, I don't have time to read it right now, but I talked that, this is an estimation and we'll let you know when we've gone over, a certain amount of hours so we can readjust and whatnot. But basically clients want you to stick to a fixed price, at least in those days. So that's kind of how I did it. So let's just keep going here. So I just wanted to also throw in a slide here that points out that the Microsoft Office templates are really good these days. So a lot of this stuff now is provided. So you can go check out that. Microsoft Office is an affordable product, so that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna talk. Time goes so quickly, I can't believe it. It's 7:42 already. I'm gonna quickly go into the second company we started. So basically, after a year in Costa Rica, I somehow had managed to find 5 clients online. Primarily, I found those in Facebook groups, and so I was really active in Facebook groups, and eventually people started clicking on my website and sending me contact stuff and asking me if I could help them build a site and whatnot. So even though I was in Costa Rica, by the time I came back to Canada, I had about 5 Canadian clients, all of whom I'd met online, amazingly. So that really showed me that anything's possible. You can bootstrap your own company, create your own website, create your own business plan, market your products and services, go online, and even though you're in a different country, find clients. I ended up building websites for a Costa Rican or Nicaraguan hotel. I ended up building a website for an importer exporter out of Vancouver. I did the restaurant one in Victoria. I forget some of them now, but there was like 2 other ones, and I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was definitely making enough for Costa Rica. And so we got through a whole year, had a great time, and I came back to Victoria. And I think the lesson I took from Costa Rica and Nicaragua as well was that these some of these people had very little and yet were absolutely fearless in starting their own business. And I just brought that back with me. I was just like, man, I'm already incorporated. I have 5 clients. When I land in Victoria, I'm going to up level the whole gig. And I'm not going to be afraid like I used to be about starting a business and all the risk and focusing on the risk. If I don't freaking start another business or growing my business now, I will never do it. And so I just brought that energy back, the energy that don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to start your own business. So for whatever reason, co-working was becoming a thing. So I decided after 2 years of working on those crappy little offices I showed you earlier that I wanted to work in a nice office. And for whatever reason, I didn't want to go and buy a desk at a co-working space. I wanted to start my own. I thought, I'm in this for the long term. I'll be 80 and I'll still want to work because I enjoy what I do now that I don't have a boss. And so I just said, I'll always need a nice downtown office. Let's go build one and let's bootstrap it again and let's fill it up with similar types of people. And so that's what we did. So I was lucky enough to find, amazingly, a small piece of a hotel that was for sale. It's a beautiful hotel in Victoria called the Parkside. And for whatever reason, they were selling one of their rooms. And I just thought this was crazy. All these hotels were launching co-working spaces. And this hotel was giving up what looked to me like a space that could be a co-working space. So we just scraped together. The reality is that I actually took equity out of my house in order to fund this project, which is risky, but I knew that I could make a go of it, because again, I brought that energy back from Costa Rica, which is stop focusing on the fear, focus on the solutions, and it'll work, right? So, anything I could get secondhand, I could. So I even have this, went on to use Victoria and got a secondhand switch. I'm still using some of these switches today. We knew we were starting a co-working space, so we had all the walls ripped open and put in brand new Ethernet cable. So these are just some photos that remind me of those days, right? So another thing I did that really helped was I started marketing long before we were open. So I was marketing 6 months before we were open, which meant when we did open, I already had a massive email list of people who were interested, which was hugely important because by the time I opened, we were done. I'd spent every single penny I had. I'll never forget, I didn't even have money to buy a coffee machine. We literally had all the chairs and all the desks. We have way more desks now, but we bought just enough desks to get going and chairs and pedestals. And I just remember walking in and I was like, man, I can't even afford a good coffee machine. So we bought the crappy coffee machine. But the point is that you can never start your marketing too early, and building up a list of interested people and it really worked. I think in the first 2 or 3 weeks we were open, we were able to get, I think, three customers, which was just enough to kind of fill the room, so that when the fourth tour came by, it looked busy enough. So again, everything was a disaster, and we hustled, and we managed to get it looking pretty good. New floors, new walls, new internet cable, new desks, new chairs, new pedestals, new boards, whiteboards, etc. We also had even that TV was secondhand. I got off Used Victoria. We managed to get a meeting room built with a nice glass wall and some nice blinds and etc. We kept the old lights, they worked good enough. And what do you know? Next thing you know, we've got customers working away, all of whom I'm friends with now, and all entrepreneurial, and I learn a ton from them, right? So, that was just the lesson for me here was just, again, just seeing people like I'll give you an example, right? So, uh, we spent our last couple months in Nicaragua, in Granada, and I'll never forget going to the market in downtown, and some guy rolls in from the countryside with this massive piece of cheese, like as big as like 3 desks, and he's the cheesemonger. And I saw this kid basically go up and buy a quarter of one of his cheeses, and then walk about 3 feet next to him and start sitting on a soapbox and selling the exact same cheese as the guy next to him. And he sold it for more money, but he was more flamboyant and more engaging and had a clientele. And I just couldn't believe that people would literally starting businesses like that. I mean, there's so many other examples of little taco stands and restaurants and hotels, and Costa Rica is full of entrepreneurs. And so that was just the lesson for me, which is there's no time to be fearful. If you've done the numbers and you believe in your skills and you believe you're a problem solver, just get started. I just wish I'd started earlier, right? I have so much freedom in my life. I can work from wherever I want now. It's fantastic. I used to be chained to a cubicle, basically for 8 hours a day. And the point there is that, you're given a piece of work, and if you finish at lunch, there's no reward. I can do 8 hours of work in 4 hours because I'm experienced, but you still have to sit for another 4 hours. Whereas, when you start providing value for money instead of time for money, you can leverage all your expertise, and you don't have to be chained to a desk for 8 hours a day because you're providing so much value, right? So, yeah, be your own boss. Definitely the lesson there. So let's keep moving here. So that's just a shot here. So there were so many things that scared me at the time because I had no room for error. Like I could not fail, right? So one of the things that happened was we had all the desks in, we started getting all the people in, and the room was really echoey. We didn't go with carpet because we wanted to look really modern. And so I ended up putting in from Long and McQuaid, which is a music store in Victoria, these acoustic panels all around the walls, and it totally fixed the problem. I had a bit of experience producing music, and I'd seen these panels in studios, and it was freaking worked perfectly. So, there was some teething pains along the way, but we figured it out. So now I'm going to go into some of the tools and techniques that I used along the way. So let me just get back here. I just realized I wasn't sharing those last 2 slides. So let me just go back a second here if I can. So I forget which slide it was, but just really quickly. So that was the finished office, the glass meeting room office, meeting room, and our first 3 customers. We have more desks now, but we just had a few desks to start. I think that was the day after we got a couple more desks. We have even more now, but that's kind of how it looked when it was ready and had the first few customers. So like I said, now I'm going to go into some tools and tactics that I use. I'm happy to see I haven't lost our stream this week. So I figured out why I was dropping the stream the last two sessions was I'd set up some hotkeys in the past, and one of them was S. So when I typed in the S, it actually stopped streaming. So we're looking pretty good here today. It's all one big stream, which is what we wanted. So here's some, I'm going to go really quick here because we're running out of time. So these are some of the tools I used, okay? So Jira, now you can get the Jira Cloud, which is really affordable, and it's freaking fantastic for managing remote resources. So one of the things I did was to go online and find some help, which turned out to be people in Toronto and the Philippines, and San Francisco. So I had a programmer in San Francisco, I had a marketer in Toronto, and I had copywriters, two of them in the Philippines. And I can explain quickly how I got them. But I would just wake up in the morning and I would create a whole bunch of Jira tickets and press send. And then I would go and do my work all day. And then in the evenings, I would go and see all this work had been done in a very affordable fashion. And Jira tickets were updated. And so Jira is something we use in the enterprise. I've used it at pretty much every company I've worked at. I use it with the provincial government. It's a fantastic tool, and the fact that they have a cloud version now is amazing. So highly recommend that for managing other people. So Trello to manage yourself, Jira to manage other people is my recommendation. So one of the things I did to get my first part-time employees was I found websites like onlinejobs.ph, which is Philippines, and I logged on and I went in there and I found usernames. And I could have bought them through this system, but I just cut and paste those usernames into Google and Facebook and did some searching. And I actually found these individuals on Facebook and I approached them directly and it worked. And I ended up hiring the exact same people you see here, but I hired them directly over Facebook, which was freaking amazing. Set them up in Jira, and the next day or so I was sending them tasks and they were completing them, and it was just fantastic. So that's something you can do. If you want really high-end developers, there's a company called TopTal that basically have really hard on-ramps for their developers. So you know if you're hiring someone from TopTal, they're going to be good. So that's another tool that's in the arsenal. Most of these tools are free or affordable. So this one here is one of the IDEs, the development text editors that I use. And it's really fun. There's all kinds of fun plugins that make it cool to work in every day. So that's one I'm going to throw down there. I've already mentioned Theme Forest. So this is my go-to place for finding WordPress and Drupal themes. Nowadays they do all kinds of stuff. So you can get intros for your videos and outros. You can get lots of neat stuff. But the ones I use are the themes and templates and whatnot. For logos, ideally you'd be developing your logos in Illustrator, but even our first Digital Desk logo, I went to Design Mantic, and it's a really cool tool. Let me just see if I can show you how cool it is. So it's really neat. So you just type in a company name. So what should we do here? Let's think of an idea here. I don't know, we'll just pretend we're selling a Mac Pro or something like that. I guess you need that. That's not a good example. All right, we'll just call it let's pretend we're starting a tech company. So we'll call it I don't know, Wild Things Tech. And then you choose, I don't really choose necessarily the technology one, but you could. And what do you know? All of these things, Wild Things Tech. So it's a pretty cool way to quickly build a logo. And they have business cards and whatnot, and they even look like they have website templates. So that was something that I use sometimes if I'm in a rush to create a cool looking logo. So that's Designmatic. There we go. So another one, Canva. So what do we got here? So we got Canva. Fantastic tool, really quick, much quicker than Photoshop. If you don't know Photoshop, start with Canva. They have all kind. I use it a lot for social posts. It's just a really, really quick tool. I think the biggest secret here is that Canva is free unless you upload images. Unless you use their images, which they charge for. So what I do is I just upload my own images, and I go to Unsplash, like I said earlier, and I upload Unsplash images and whatnot. I also noticed they have Zoom virtual backgrounds, which maybe I should use next week. So that's another one, Canva. Obviously, Photoshop and Illustrator. I did mention it last week, but I'm just going to quickly throw it down again, which is excellent resource for learning things like Photoshop and Illustrator is Udemy. So if you're new to Photoshop, for example, all kinds of neat courses that you can take. So again, great time to start your own business, great time to learn new tools, and Adobe are obviously industry standards for design and whatnot. Another tool that I used right out of gate, which really helped me a lot, is FreshBooks. So this was a fantastic way for invoicing clients. So I use Stripe and I connect it to FreshBooks. Stripe is a payment provider. FreshBooks creates invoices and does timesheets. And so my workers in the Philippines would fill out their timesheets for FreshBooks, and it was easy to pay them. So it was just like really simple to use. It's not perfect. They've had a lot of teething pains the last few weeks because everyone kind of hitting their system so hard. So the system's down sometimes, but generally speaking, it works pretty well. Another one is Xero, Xero. It's a bit more complex, but your accountant probably will thank you. I did try to use Xero for a bit. Maybe I was too early in my business because it was a bit expensive in those days. And you also need to really kind of align it to your bank, and it was a little too difficult at the time. So for me, FreshBooks got me through it, and I still use it today. As I mentioned, oh no, this is different. So I use Amazon Cloud for storage. So originally they had unlimited plan, they got rid of that, but it's still affordable. And it's just a great way for backing up all your files and photos and websites, and then you can easily right-click stuff and share it with your client. Originally, I built all my websites on AWS, which was quite a learning for me. Even though I'm fairly technical, there's a lot that can go wrong. But it was really great for my career as a whole because it forced me to do it in an enterprise kind of way. But as I said, nowadays, I recommend clients just use something easy that has a help desk that answers the phone. I did mention this earlier, the VMware Fusion, that's the logo there. So this is just a great way to have a Mac and have a PC on it as well. So I could test my websites in IE, Internet Explorer. I could test them on a Mac in Safari. It was critical, absolutely critical when I was in Costa Rica to be able to have both, because I had clients call up and say, this pixel's out of place on IE9, and I'd need to be able to figure out why, and I'm by myself, so I needed to have VMware with Windows on it. So you're in Canva, you're creating your little social images. A great way to schedule them is using something called Buffer or Hootsuite. So you can kind of schedule everything. There's pros and cons. The pros are that you can pre-schedule them and kind of have a single dashboard with all your analytics. If you're not careful, some of your images aren't perfectly resized for individual platforms such as Instagram or Facebook. So I still think it's a win. It's something that I set up for my clients who don't really know about social marketing or see the reason to do it. That way they just do a single post and it hits a bunch of platforms. So one of the cool things I did is I actually put the Hootsuite form inside their WordPress site, so they could just go to their own website, they could log in, they could go to the social page I created, and they would have their Hootsuite and Buffer tools embedded. So just a single place to do that. Google Analytics, as I said, once again, I'll just say for anyone who just got on to this webinar that go back to our Facebook page, Digital Desks Co-working, where we have recordings of the last two sessions. The first one was how to optimize your business website. So I go into Google Analytics quite a bit there. So just a tool that's free and helpful for people starting out, right? So in summary, because we're a couple minutes over here, things I tried to get across in this presentation, which is starting your own business allows you to control your own time. So you're not trading time for money, you're trading value for money. So I have certainly benefited a lot from being able to choose my own location where I work from and my own schedule. And I probably work a lot harder than some people around me, but I'm always enjoying it because it's always for my company and I'm growing my own empire. And I have children now, and one day maybe they'll take over my family business, and that'll just be a great legacy, right? When are you ready to start your business? I think it's kind of like maybe like marriage or something. Maybe you never feel 100% ready. At least I didn't. I was never quite sure if it was the right choice. Do you ever feel 100% ready to start your business? Only if there's no risk, right? As soon as there's a bit of risk, you start doubting yourself maybe. So just know, again, the biggest lesson I took away from our Costa Rica year was that people start businesses with way less than what the typical Canadian or American has. So we really need to lose that fear. If you're in Canada, there's not an easier country in the world, I don't think, to start a business than in Canada. So even though you don't feel ready, and even though I needed to be kind of pushed, ideally, you would be able to push yourself into entrepreneurship without necessarily experiencing some kind of shock. Just recognize you may not feel ready, but that doesn't mean you're not ready, right? A lot of people right now have just lost their job, and so I'm saying that this might be a perfect opportunity for you to start your business. Even if you go back to work in September, to have your little side hustle set up with your website and your branding and your story and your marketing, it would be such a big win for you. If it's a side hustle, it's difficult because you're busy with your regular job, but hopefully your side hustle takes over. Make yourself look big online, but always be honest and authentic. So, again, my first website, I made myself sound really, really big, but I made sure that every single product and service that was available, I could provide myself or with my team. And I was always honest and authentic. I didn't exaggerate or lie. I just made sure that I looked so polished and professional. So I had a 1-800 number. I had a little chat box that popped up on the bottom right. I had all the right pages and nice images, and the site loaded fast, and I made sure it looked really robust, and that I think that really helped. I always talk about the one-page business model, so opening up something like Visio or Smart Draw and just drawing your flow chart. So where do my customers come from? What channels? What do I provide them? Which are the one-time services or products I provide? What are the recurring things that I provide, etc. It's good just to have a single diagram. You can iterate on it as you wish. What tools do you use along the way, etc. I talked about tools, so make sure you figure out what tools you're going to use. I call it choose your weapons. It's really easy these days to kind of cycle through all different tools. There's always a freemium plan or a new tool. Just choose your weapons and stick to them is my advice there. It's easy to have sort of shiny object syndrome and get distracted by new cool tools, but just make sure you understand your core tools, what they provide, why you use them, how they integrate into your business model. Make sure you get all your templates ready. So I'm talking about statement of work template. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly fly over here. This is a fantastic book. It's called The Business Side of Creativity. It's kind of like my Bible almost. So it talks about starting a digital agency, but from a business perspective. So that's something that's sort of related to getting all your templates. They talk about how to set up retainers and things like that. So again, for me, a website is a quick way of doing a business plan. I don't know if that's the best advice for everyone, but for me, it works. So, start a website is my recommendation, and just start filling it out, iterate on it every week, add stuff, make it better. Sorry, I got flux turning on here. And then once you've got your website and your business model and you know who you're targeting, go get customers online. So I went into Facebook groups and just went nuts with commenting and engaging with people. And I just did it every morning for weeks on end, and I started to work. I started answering people's questions and recommending different tools and stuff. And the next thing you know, I was able to find some customers. So once you've got all your website and your story, it's time to go get your customers. Nowadays, of course, you can use pay-per-click advertising and things like that. So again, go back and watch how to optimize your business website, and we have some discussions on how you can find new clients and create personas and whatnot. Obviously, you want to do a really good job. So the first few clients I had, I just worked around the clock to make sure they were happy. It took me so much effort to find those first 5 clients that I wanted them just to be blown away. So I tried to over deliver so that they would provide good testimonials and referrals. Ask for help when you need it. Maybe I don't ask for help enough, but what I do is I go and do a lot of competitive analysis. So I'm always aware of who my competitors are, what they're doing, how they're innovating. Some people will say online, ignore your competitors, just go do your thing. But for me, I like to know what the marketplace looks like. I like to know what's new, who's doing well, and seeing kind of what ideas I can get from that. So I'm not afraid to look around. So we're almost done here. I appreciate everyone who's stuck by us here. I'm just going to quickly end with a few books that I highly recommend. So The 4-Hour Workweek was a book. I can't even remember how I found this book, but I found it at the perfect time, which was just before we went to Costa Rica. And I also, at the same time, was reading this book called Why Work Sucks and How to Fix It. So I highly recommend anyone who is sick of their cubicle to go and read The 4-Hour Workweek and Why Work Sucks and How to Fix It. And it really talks about what I touched on a minute ago, which is not trading your time for money and figuring out how to trade value for money. And then the other book I really, really liked, and I'm just going to go and reread it like this week, I think, is this one here. It's called The $1 Million Consulting. And this book I credit with me not finding a business partner. So as I mentioned earlier, I own my whole company, and there's pros and cons to that. I probably work too hard and do too much and have maybe been slowed down by not having a business partner. But I've also met enough people who seriously regret having a business partner and having some real issues, maybe not in the first year, but the 3rd, 5th, 7th year. So $1 Million Consulting for me, and I need to go reread it, was this idea that you just don't need a business partner, that you can build a team, and you don't have to give away large chunks of your company to either fund it or partner with someone. And if you give away a bunch of your equity and partner with the wrong person, you're just wrecking your life and wrecking your company. So those are 3 books that I would really recommend people check out. They were enough to motivate me to start my own company. And then this guy here, The Business Side of Creativity, like I had some experience working inside of a advertising company, Suburbia Studios, but not enough. And this book just goes end to end on the business side of a creative agency. And so it's right on my shelf down there, and I just love that book. I didn't know how to set up retainers, and that had a good chapter on that. So I think I'll just end there. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in. And I'm super stoked that we fixed the problem with the streaming not working. So now all our videos will be one Peace on Facebook and Twitch and Instagram. So thanks again. I don't even know what we're going to be talking about next week. I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. If you have any questions, please just hit me up on Digital Desk's Facebook or Red Maple Media, either of those. I'd be happy to even have a Zoom call with you and answer any questions you have. So really appreciate everyone tuning in, and I'm going to try and get all these videos and slides available on our new website. So maybe I'll just end with that actually. So we just launched a new website this week. So this is our new Digital Desk website. And so basically we have pictures of the parkside and all the facilities we get to use, like the roof garden and the pool and hot tub and the atrium, and all of our testimonials. And as you know, right now everyone's at the stay at home. So what we've done is we've kind of let people know we've been selling virtual memberships since we opened. But now that's our focus. So we're very aware that people are working from home, and if you're growing your business from a residential address, you're potentially missing out on web searches and mobile searches in the downtown core. And so what we promote is a virtual office package, which has business mailing address as well. And we include mail forwarding and setting up your social media pins on Google Maps and etc. And you also get access to our online community, so you can ask other Digital Desks members questions. And all of these videos and learnings are going to be in our resource library. So for just $79 a month, you can set up a virtual office. So you can go to our website and click the sign up now, and select business mailing and fill out your information if you'd like to learn more. And I'll get back to you on that. But it's a great way to set up an office in Victoria, BC. There's also a link up here you can click on as well, virtual membership. So yeah, we're really excited about our new website. There's some things I need to fix, but it's basically up there. So we have our virtual office package here, and it explains it all very clearly. We even are offering an add-on where we can get you a voice over IP phone and have it sent to your house with G Suite integration. So that's pretty neat. So again, if you want a business mailing address, you can basically set up a virtual Victoria, BC office. So Vancouver companies that want a Victoria, BC presence, we hope that you'll think of us. So anyway, we're gonna set up a few more pages on here in a week or two, so that we can have an online learning area and broadcast these presentations. So again, thanks very much everyone for tuning in, and I hope you learned something today. And I'll see you this time next week, 7 p.m. PST, brought to you by Digital Desk Co-working, located in downtown Victoria, BC, and hopefully soon to be open again soon. So we'll see you online for now, and we'll hopefully see you later. Bye.